The hand that grips too long forgets it can open. A man picks something up. At first, it makes sense. He needs it, values it, holds it for good reason. Then, time passes. The reason fades, but the grip remains. Attachment starts practical. It ends as prison. That's the pattern most men miss. They think they're protecting what matters. What they're actually doing is refusing to acknowledge that some things were never meant to stay. A bowl sits in a cupboard. Someone drops it. It breaks. If the bowl came from a shop, the response is simple. Minor loss. Replace it next week. No weight carried forward. If the bowl was passed down through generations, the same breakage becomes different. Hours of distress, replayed conversations, resentment aimed at whoever wasn't careful enough. The bowl itself had no say in how it was held. The attachment decided everything. Now, scale that up. Money flows into a man's account for 6 months. Regular deposits. Reliable income. Then it stops. The work dries up. The contract ends. By any measure, he's ahead. 6 months of income he didn't have before. More in the account than when it started. But the mind doesn't calculate gain. It calculates loss. Why? Because somewhere between the first deposit and the 6th, attachment formed. The income stopped being temporary and started feeling permanent. The mind built a future around it. Plans, expectations, identity. When it stopped, the grief wasn't for what was earned. It was for what was assumed would continue. The flow didn't lie. The attachment did. What belongs to you is limited. Your conduct, your choices, your response to circumstances. What doesn't belong to you is everything else. Other people's actions, money's arrival and departure, outcomes you preferred but couldn't guarantee. When a man confuses the two, when he treats what doesn't belong to him as permanent, he anchors himself to something that was always going to shift. That's not strength, that's refusal. It's the same for when a man forms a relationship. Time is spent together, experiences shared, connection built. Then it ends. The ending feels like robbery, like something was taken. But nothing was taken. The time together still happened. The experiences still exist. The man is objectively ahead of where he was before the relationship started. Attachment, however, doesn't measure what was. It measures what was expected. The mind assumed continuation, built a future around permanence. When the relationship ended, the loss wasn't the person. It was the imagined version of what should have come next. That version was never real, but attachment made it feel guaranteed. Here's the mechanism. Attachment doesn't care about truth. It cares about familiarity. The longer something stays, the more the mind treats it as permanent, even when logic says otherwise. A man receives income for months. Temporary contract, clear end date. The mind still adjusts, treats it as stable, builds around it. When it ends exactly as planned, the response is grief. Not because the terms changed, because attachment refused to believe the terms. What you cling to will cause you suffering. not because the thing itself is harmful, because clinging demands stability in a world that doesn't provide it. Everything that arrives will leave. Every person, every circumstance, every condition. The tighter the grip, the harder the departure. Attachment creates obligations that don't exist. The bowl should have been protected better. The money should have kept coming. The person should have stayed. None of these obligations were real. All of them were invented by attachment. So why do men hold when the grip burns? Because release feels like betrayal. If something mattered, it should be kept. If it cost time, effort, attention, it must mean something permanent. The mind doesn't want to accept that value and permanence are separate. Something can matter deeply and still be temporary. Letting go doesn't erase what was, it acknowledges what is. Familiarity also plays a role. Attachment becomes habit. The longer something is held, the harder it is to imagine life without it, even when the thing itself no longer serves, even when it burns. The mind resists change, prefers the known to the unknown. Familiarity feels safer than uncertainty, even when familiarity is uncomfortable. Habit is not safety, it's just repetition. And repetition, unchecked, becomes structure, a cage built from what should have been temporary. Now, here is where discipline enters. Discipline isn't about never holding, it's about knowing when to release. A man who cannot hold has no strength. A man who can hold but refuses to release has no control. Strength is capacity. Control is choice. Attachment removes choice. It makes release feel impossible. The grip tightens without intention. The hand forgets it can open. That's not loyalty. That's reflex. The mind is a tool, powerful, obedient. It will attach to anything given enough time. What gets rehearsed gets strengthened. Dwelling on what should have stayed builds the belief that it was owed. It wasn't. Attention is the first form of discipline. Notice where the grip tightens. Notice what's being held and why. Notice when the reason fades but the habit remains. That's the moment that matters. Not dramatic, not loud, just clear. The thing being held no longer serves. The grip can open. Release isn't denial. It's not pretending nothing mattered. It's choosing not to carry what no longer has purpose. Letting go is trained. The mind resists at first, insists the grip is necessary, that without it, something vital will be lost. What is being protected? Usually, just a habit of holding. Flow is constant. People come and go. Money arrives and departs. Circumstances shift. That's not tragedy. That's pattern. The question is whether a man moves with the flow or resists it. Resistance feels like loyalty. It isn't. It's the refusal to accept that nothing was permanent in the first place. What was gained still happened. The time, the experiences, the growth. None of that disappears when something ends. But attachment demands continuation, treats the ending as betrayal. Nothing was betrayed. Nothing was owed. Discipline is deciding what to hold and what to release. Not everything deserves to be carried. Some things were meant to pass through. The hand that grips too long forgets it can open. So just open it.